Hey, I'm Dr. David Maddow. Welcome to Microdose U. I've got some really good questions that have been sent in from listeners and viewers that I'm going to answer in just a couple of minutes. But before I do, I want to share with you several reasons why I think so many people that are interested in microdosing magic mushrooms to improve their lives, to improve their mental health, just never get started. You see, I get so many messages almost every day from people that are interested. They've got anxiety, depression, other things going on in their lives there, and they're super interested, and they ask very good questions about microdosing, how to microdose, things like that. But then something happens. They never get started, and their lives just simply don't change. And I think I've got four main reasons why maybe you, if you're in that category, or somebody is not getting started with microdosing magic mushrooms. So let's get right into it. I think one of the reasons is simply that they are afraid of using a psychedelic. There's a lot of fear in using something like magic mushrooms. There's a lot of fear of using something or trying something that you've never tried before. You've heard crazy things about it, and you're worried that it's going to send you on some kind of like really far out psychedelic trip and you're never going to return, and anything like that, or anything in between. People are just afraid of using a psychedelic. And I'm here to tell you that when used, especially when used in microdose form, like we're talking about very tiny, tiny amounts. It's a microdose. There's nothing to worry about in that category. It's not going to send you on a psychedelic trip. You're not going to be high. You can function during the day. It's not that much different from taking a pharmaceutical that pharmaceuticals have side effects that could be real big problems. So I want to hopefully remove the fear that once you enter into the world of microdosing a psychedelic, that it's gonna send you somewhere that you don't want to be. That's just not true. It's only going to improve the way you feel every day. It's going to improve your life in a big way, and that's why I'm a tremendous fan of this. But I think a lot of people are still really scared and afraid, and I understand. But the only way you'll get over that is if you actually try to do it, try to microdose. You will be fine, I promise you. And no, this is not medical advice. And as I always say, use magic mushrooms or psychedelics or whatever we talk about in an area where it is legal or permitted by law or decriminalized or something like that. Number two, a big reason is people just simply don't know where to find magic mushrooms. You don't want to go out to the park around the corner from your house and buy it from some dealer. And don't do that. I don't blame you. I would never do anything like that. And we don't discuss sourcing on this show or on our Facebook group or anything like that. I don't talk about sourcing. If you are in this category and you just simply, every other reason is fine, but you just have no idea where to source or where to get this plant medicine, I'm going to give you a recommendation in parentheses, and that's join our Patreon page. And I'm not going to say anything more than that. Other than that, you can read between the lines any way you want, but you can join our Patreon page, and you might be able to learn a little bit more, possibly, about that. Number three, some people simply, and I understand this, some people simply just don't want to break the law. And magic mushrooms are mostly illegal in most areas, most countries. In the United States here, there are some areas where it is legal. They are legal or decriminalized, or they're actually okay to use. But in most areas, they're not. Admittedly, in most areas, they're not. And like I tell you, to only use them in areas that it is permitted. I do tell you that. So, but look, I'm not an advocate of breaking any laws at all. But anytime you go on the interstate highway and go over the speed limit, you are breaking a law. So where do you draw the line? Which laws do you break? Which laws do you not break? For me, feeling good every single day and the removal of any type of anxiety and depression or mental health issues is paramount to my life. And they've totally, totally changed the way I feel every single day. So I'm in favor of this, as I've been talking to you about over the past 4 years or so. So again, you just have to make that decision. But the number four reason, and possibly possibly the biggest reason is there is still some type of a stigma attached to using magic mushrooms, psilocybin, psychedelics, LSD, things like that. There's a stigma to it because in our society, many people still look at this as a hard drug. It's not. It's a plant medicine that has been used for millennium. Is that the right word, millennium? I think that's, well, for thousands of years, thousands and thousands of years. So back to the point where we were in a prehistoric society, and we've been using these for a long, long, long time. And there's a reason. There's a reason because they work and they are safe. But there still is a stigma attached to it. But it's really strange to me. There's not a stigma attached to somebody going into a restaurant and ordering a very expensive bottle of wine with dinner. I mean, there's basically no stigma attached to that, or having a martini somewhere, drinking beer at a baseball or football game. There's no real stigma attached because that's what people do, especially in the United States, where I'm recording this from and where I live, and all over the world, really. But there's no stigma to certain things only because they are legal. But I would argue that alcoholism is one of the saddest and most dangerous diseases out there, and people can become addicted to alcohol, and it can shatter lives for sure. I don't think microdosing magic mushrooms shatters lives. I've never heard of that happening. I just don't think that's possible. But because it's not legal, mostly there's a stigma, and not only that it's not legal, but people still look at that as a hard drug. It's not a hard drug. So again, you have to make up your mind. You have to decide. But if you do decide to microdose magic mushrooms for your health and for your mental health, especially, but for all around health, it's something that you really do need to take seriously and stick with it. If you do it once or twice and then forget it or get out of the routine, it's not going to do anything. So you have to be serious about it. It's like anything else. If you start an SSRI for your mental health, an antidepressant or anti-anxiety agent or something like that, it's not the kind of thing you take 1 or 2 days and then say, I've had it with that. It's a regimen. It's a routine you get into. And same thing with magic mushrooms. You can't just start it and say, forget it, I'm not doing it, or forget the dose. It won't work. So unless you're committed, I would agree. I would say don't get started. Okay, I hope that helps. But unfortunately, there are some reasons here that people don't get started and ultimately will not feel as good as they can feel every single day if they've got some type of issues and they don't want to use pharmaceuticals. So that's that. Let's get into some questions, and I appreciate your questions that you ask. As I've said for a little while now, I'm on a road trip. I think I'm on my 45th day out on the road. This has been awesome. Started in Salt Lake City, traveled all across the country to the East Coast, all up and down the East Coast, to the South, to Memphis, Tennessee. I'm on my way heading back right now. So right now, as I record this, I am actually standing on the corner in Winslow, Arizona. Such a fine sight to see. Oh, it's beautiful here in a hotel room. But that's where I am, Winslow, Arizona right now. So thanks for sending in your questions, because sometimes it's been a little bit difficult for me to answer them in real time when you ask them. But I make it a point to try to gather them together and answer them on a show here. So let's get started with questions from YouTube. I want to make sure I get this right. Shropshire Man. I hope that's right. Shropshire Man. Does body mass affect dosage of magic mushrooms? And what about if I have recently eaten? Does that affect dosage? Okay, so first things first. First one, does body mass or body weight, does weight affect dosage? In other words, does the person that's 80 pounds, that weighs 80 pounds, have to dose less than somebody that weighs, let's say, 400 pounds? The answer is no. It is not weight dependent. So if you read that, if you've heard that, it simply is not true. It's something that works on your brain. and our brains are the same no matter how much we weigh. So no, it's not weight dependent at all. Your dose is your dose is your dose. Now, what about if I've recently eaten? If I'm on a full stomach, do I need to take more? Do I need to take less? No, it's the same thing. However, if you've recently eaten, it might take a little bit longer to actually to digest and feel the effects. And again, when I say feel the effects, you're not waiting to feel stoned, and you're not waiting to see kaleidoscopic colors. You're waiting to just feel, how can I, pleasant. You're waiting to be able to get on with your day without the anxiety and depression, and this does work. So yeah, so if you do it on a full stomach, it's just going to take a little bit longer, but there's no problem with that. There's no problem with that at all. Thanks for your question there. So at Inspired Horizons, what is ego death and what is a bad trip? So you've probably heard, if you've read a lot about magic mushrooms and dosing, people that take much higher doses. Now this will not come into play with microdosing at all. Um, Ego death is when you have taken a very large dose of magic mushrooms. And this can also happen with cannabis. I've personally had this happen with cannabis. It's when your ego, it's nothing to do with death, so don't let the word death scare you. But it's when your ego, your sense of being who you are, the sense of me being Dr. David Maddow, I know who I am right now, when that's dissolved, and just imagine yourself lying down, maybe with in a dark room with a pair of headphones on, listening to music, and you're laying back there, and you are not aware of who you are anymore. It's not scary. It's not a bad feeling. It's just that you've dosed enough. And again, remember, this doesn't happen with microdosing, so please don't let this scare you. But you're one within the universe, and you're not who you are anymore, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Um, you're just lying back in almost in nothingness, and it's beautiful. And that's where, people that talk about the large doses, that's where a lot of the work takes place as well. But you don't have to do that. You don't have to take a large dose. I'm a microdoser, and I've been doing it for quite some time, as you know now, and it's totally changed the way I feel every day. So if anybody tells you, you have to go through ego death, you have to take a heroic dose, it's BS. It's not true. Could that work? Yeah, absolutely. Larger doses could work, but one large dose is not going to. Some people say, "Oh, you just do it once and it's going to change your life forever." I'm not such a believer that that's true. And what about the second part of the question? What is a bad trip? Again, this is generally with a larger dose, but I want to back up because technically there's no such thing as a bad trip. A trip can teach you things. A trip can be maybe scary. A trip can be maybe not go not in the direction that you wanted to, but more often than not, it's trying to show you something in your life that you need to get rid of. Um, so I don't think there's really that's anything that's really referred to as a bad trip. I think it could be a teaching trip. And if you're worried about that, always have somebody, you could a trip sitter sit with you if you're going to be doing a large dose. Just somebody that is not tripping, somebody that is totally sober and can just talk you down from things that might scare you that take place when you're going on this trip. So even if it is a bad trip, again, there's no such thing as a bad trip. They can talk you down, and you'll be totally fine. I hope that helps. I hope that was a decent enough explanation there. Rod, Rodri Rod um, says, I'm starting with 125 milligrams of Enigma. Enigma is a strain of psilocybin. Um, what do you think about that? I say, congratulations, you're starting. That's great. Remember what I said at the beginning. This is something that you want to start, but you don't, and you want to continue to do this and do it right and do all the things that go along with microdosing, and do it a couple times and then say, it didn't work. I can't. I'm on to the next thing. No, no, no. So congratulations for starting. I'm very glad you are. 125 milligrams of Enigma. Well, Enigma is a strain that is a strong strain. Some people say that it's 1.5 to 2 times as strong as the typical, like kind of like entry level golden teachers. But even though that could be true, you're taking 125 milligrams. So even if we double that, 250 milligrams, that's still in the microdose territory. You're still going to be fine. If you're not positive, go ahead and back it down to 100 milligrams. So if you double that, it's going to be 200. You're going to be totally fine, because even if you do the 125 and double it, it's a microdose, and you might feel it quite a bit, but it's still a microdose. And test it on a weekend, or test it at a time that you don't have rigid plans or responsibilities of going to work or driving or babysitting or whatever it might be. Test it the first time just to be sure, but you're going to be fine. I do have another question here, came in by direct message, so I got to pull that one up. So give me just one quick second. Here we go. Okay, here it is. It's from Saul. Saul says, "Hey David, I've been microdosing for a few weeks now, but I'm not sure if it's working or if I'm just imagining the effects. How do I really know if it's doing something or if I'm just placebo tripping?" Well, I like your terminology there, Saul, but again, microdosing, you're not going to be tripping whether it's placebo tripping or not. But that's a good point. Well, no, maybe if it's a placebo, you could feel that you're seeing and experiencing things that you're really not, but it's placebo effect instead, because a microdose is not going to send you on a psychedelic trip. But the bottom line is, how do you know if it's working? The only way you know if it's working is to continue to do it on your regimen, which again, we recommend, 3, 4, 5 days on, 2 or 3 days off, and keep repeating that. Don't miss any days, except for the days off, of course, but keep the regimen going. And then it depends what you're doing it for. So let's just make this up and say you're doing it for anxiety. Well, how do you know it's working? Well, if your anxiety is decreasing over time, then guess what? I think it's working. If your depression is decreasing over time, then it's working. You can't necessarily tell day to day, because again, for some people, it takes a little bit longer to work. So for me, I was very fortunate. It started working on day 1 or day 2. And again, part of it might have been a placebo effect. It's possible, but I'll take it because it worked. And then over time, the mushrooms themselves began to rewire my brain. So placebo or not, it doesn't really matter. Placebo is real. And again, the magic mushrooms at some point will take over. So that's how you tell. If you're feeling better, it's working. If you're not feeling better over time, it's not working, and you have to do something else, such as increase the dosage. What else? A lot of the things that go alongside of the microdosing. I've talked about journaling. I've talked about deep thought. A lot of things like that. Removing yourself from certain situations. If there's a certain trigger situation, the mushrooms will teach you, well, you don't need to be in that situation anymore. Get rid of it. And if you're still not sure, we offer coaching. We offer one-on-one coaching to help people that just aren't sure if it's working, or people that are having such issues. They feel they need some help first before just diving into this, because there's a lot they want to talk about, and they want somebody on their side who they can share things with and get advice from. And that's what we do. And it's not medical advice, but we do a lot of coaching, and it's helped really well. And if you're not sure how to get to that, go to my website, microdoseu.com, microdose with the letter U on the end of it.com, or the show. Every time I do an episode like this, whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening to it on Apple or wherever, Spotify, there's always show notes for every episode. And in those show notes, I give really important links and information that'll help you on your microdosing journey. So please always check that out. I've got a brand new episode that comes out every single Wednesday. Keep the questions coming in, because that's what's keeping this show going. I love answering your questions, and this is a great format to do so. I love it. I'm on my road trip. I'm still going to be on my road trip for at least another week or so, but eventually I'll be back in my home studio, where The audio quality will be pristine. You'll see my studios, you'll see my background again. So thanks for putting up with me on the road. I really appreciate it. And as I always say at the end of every episode, and I mean this from my heart, I love you and thank you so much for being with me. I hope I've helped you in some way on this episode. See you next time.